Good morning. We are live. All right.
Good morning.
Another Wednesday with coffee. So
Love
I
it.
have my coffee today. I wasn't prepared with coffee last week. So how's it going, boys?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing really, really good. I just got back from Nashville, which was insane. I'm not gonna lie, it was crazy and crazy with people. I was looked at as a weird one wearing my mask. So got to mastermind with some amazing people and looking to mastermind with you guys today. And it's just looking for a good time here. So Dave, what do you got
Awesome.
going on, man?
Hey guys, I was down in Nashville a couple weeks ago, man. It was such a great time. I love that city. It's such an amazing town. Love it there. Absolutely love it there. I think I might have got COVID there, but what are you going to do?
It
It was worth
sounds
it.
like
It was
how
worth
busy
it.
it was.
Yeah. I'm certain I didn't get COVID because I've been vaccinated, but I came back with a scratch for sure. When you have that many people in public, when you haven't had that many people in public for a while, it
For a long
definitely,
time,
you're
right?
down to catch something, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
very cool. All right,
Right.
we're here to answer questions. We're here to help people out. We're here to just talk about some of the things that we have going on. So, if you have questions, make sure you're asking questions. I don't know. Anybody want to share some wins? I know, Gavin, you had one.
Yeah, so I'm in Atlanta right now. I'm actually working at Starbucks. So I'm heading after this call to get my brother-in-law from the airport. We're heading to Alabama to do some content for in our flips that we've got going and some wholesale deals. But yeah, we close on one in the morning, 8 a.m. a flip, which is good. Some good numbers there. We should make after money costs about 50 something thousand. So that's awesome. We got a wholesale deal closing on Friday for 10,000. So there's some good wins. And yeah, I'm excited to do some content. It's actually I've done like hundreds of deals in Alabama. It's only my second time visiting, so which is awesome. So I'm looking forward to actually going seeing some of these places that we're buying and flipping, and see how it's all coming together and looking like. So yeah, what about you guys?
I sat with my team yesterday. First time I've done it in a while, and I definitely realized I need to do it more often. But we actually sat the entire morning and listened to recordings back and just bantered with each other about the improvements that they could be making. And realizing that is something that I definitely want to be putting out there. So I'm going to be working on finding somebody to sit with me here in the office and record that kind of stuff, because the banter back and forth about just a
Yeah,
little pivot points. Like, because I mean, even me, like if I'm on a call, I'm gonna Monday morning quarterback that call, and that's one of the ways I make myself better. I think one of the true signs I would say of a great acquisitions rep is somebody who's going to listen back to their appointment or listen back to
yep,
their call on their own without any prompting. And it's an amazing thing to do as a team, to go through with your team. If you have a team in your office, even if you have one employee, to just go through your calls and their calls
yep,
and do that. And I got to do that yesterday. We're going to be doing that a couple times a week now moving forward, and it was a
yep.
lot of fun. And I can already see the energy in my team just increase tenfold from doing that. So I consider that a win.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. And I think as well, it's the fastest way to learn, right? Being on the phone and the skill and of closing deals, because and that goes for us as well, right? The team, but for us, like there's times when I think I've absolutely nailed a call, and then what happens is I think I nailed the call, and I'll listen back to it and go, why did I say that? I can't remember saying that. Oh, I should have done here. I should have
Yeah.
pivoted. I could have said that. And you learn so much faster by doing that. But I love that, bringing the team in and creating that. Yes, I think that's a huge win.
I don't eat. Okay, so the three of us are in a different group. We're in like a brotherhood mastermind that is not business technically related. It's more just being better at being a person, being better at being a man, being better at being at business, right?
Yeah,
And I'm not sure if I don't remember if you guys on the call or not, but there was a call we just did recently talking about sales, and a lot of us who've been doing this for years, one of the things they had mentioned was unconscious competence. I don't know if I brought this up in the last conversation we had or not. We
no,
are able to do things and we can't explain why we do them, and we probably don't even know why we do them when it comes to sales. When we pivot, when we have responses to something somebody says, that's an amazing response. It's like right off the cuff. It's like a comedian that can, when you heckle them, they just come back at you, right, with these
yeah,
one liners, these zingers that knock you off your toes. Well, as acquisitions people, I know myself, I can do that, but it's literally from years of doing that, listening back to the call, Monday morning quarterback in the conversation, going through my head, could I have said this differently or that differently? Those are the things that I think ultimately make a good closer. A good closer isn't necessarily born. I think we have a certain gut instinct right out of the gate, but we hone that instinct. We hone the hunt and the drive through the years to the point where it just happens. You poke the bear bites you, and it's instantaneous, right?
Yeah,
So
no, absolutely. And the beauty is as well with closing is that everyone has their own technique, right? You've got
right.
like the hard close, you've got the soft close, you've got the more personable person. There's different ways, and I think what I always teach is to be you, right? There's certain phrases that you can use, there's certain positioning that you can use, there's certain questions you can frame, and you can learn that. But at the end of the day, you can't be David Dodge or Don Costa. You got to be you, and you've got to put your own spin on it, right?
Well, and that's a fantastic point, because David Dodge and Don Costa are two uniquely different people. Dave is high energy to the point. I'm somebody. I'm going to speak less. I'm going to ask the question, and you're not going to hear from me for an hour if I'm going to let you talk, because you're going to tell me all the ways to close you. So we're gonna Dave and I are gonna close completely differently, totally differently. If you sit with us in a room, you'll see exactly why.
Yeah.
And ultimately, at the end of the day, we're both successful at it.
100%.
Yeah. So.
Hey, speaking of that, guys, I was with that group that we're talking about, that that mastermind group, over the last 2 days, and one of the guys in the group, one of my favorite people of all time, Gary Boomershine, was in there, and he had a really, really good tip. Can we take that comment down just for a second? We'll add it right back.
Yeah.
Cool, perfect. Just because I can't see myself and it's freaking me out. Gary said when he hires a new guy for acquisitions, right? Doesn't have to be a guy, girl, a new person for acquisitions. And right away, right, when he gets them onboarded and gets them going, and maybe you guys are doing this. I hadn't really heard this prior, so I was actually like very impressed. And I'm gonna probably start doing this as well. But he tells them, "Hey, just go get me some contracts. I don't care what the price is. It doesn't even have to be a discounted price. Go get me some contracts. Get comfortable closing and talking to sellers and getting the contract out and signing those contracts with the people." Now, this is assuming it's in person. They're running appointments, not necessarily virtual, but it doesn't even really matter, right? Because if they go a week or two and they can't get anybody to sign a contract, even at the price they want, that person is probably not a good fit for his organization and his business. And, I hadn't really thought of that. And I'm just thinking, man, that's such a great tool. So obviously you want to try to get some discount, maybe even just 10 or 15%, because at that point you can negotiate them down, right? But if they can't get the seller to sign a contract at the number the seller wants or close to it, how do you expect them to be able to go get a contract at 50 or 60 cents on the dollar? So just a side nugget there. If you guys are trying to build your business and you're not a one-man show and you do have an acquisitions person or a team, or just somebody that's helping you and they're new, maybe implement that strategy. Hey, go out and try to get me some contracts right away. That's your number one goal. Obviously, you're going to train that person and work alongside that person. But if they can't close, right, then they're probably not the right person for the sales role.
So there's two things he's looking for, and I just want to break that down because it's not usually communicated. And I've been really thinking this thing through a lot. There's two things he's looking for. One is, can the person control the conversation, and can the person control the steps, the process of the sales cycle, which is getting them to a number and then getting them to a contract. And what you're saying is that ultimately doesn't matter really what that number is, just can they get them to the contract? So can the person maintain control, or do they lose control? Because if you're losing control, you're not getting to the finish line. You're getting verbals and they're going dark on you and all that kind of stuff like that. And then second, if the person is maintaining control, are they asking for the close? Because somebody might maintain control all the way through and then not ask for the close. Are they missing that step, or do they get to that step and do they chicken out? Do they talk the seller out of it? That kind of thing. So can they maintain control through the conversation and through the steps and get it to the finish line? And then once they get to that point where they're going to cross that finish line, can they ask for that close? And that's what he's ultimately looking for, is does that person have those basic capabilities? And if they do, then I'm sure he feels like he can train them to do anything.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I think the other thing is, though, as well, I've not heard of that. And I'm not saying that I disagree, because I think there's a purpose to that. But I also feel as well from actually doing the business in the right ways, if they are locking contracts up high, right, to get that contract, right? Because that's the goal, is to get comfortable with getting contracts signed. But it's also the positioning on that. Like, you don't want to be coming in saying, "Hey, we can guarantee this, and we're going to close, and we're going to do this." So I think there's definitely got to watch there for people listening, that you're not coming in giving it the guarantee when you know probably you're
Right.
going to have to. Because if you come in like we will only give the guarantee when we know, like, we know our numbers, we know we're buying this thing, like, we know it's a home run. Then we'll say we'll close next week, because we know we're going to do that. Where if you know that the numbers are tight, you need to be saying that to the seller, like, "Hey, I know you want 80, I know we wanted 60, we might be able to make 80 work, we need to get access to the property, let's see what we can do, let's go ahead, we'll send you out the contract, but we do need to do more due diligence, and hopefully we can reach your number." Now, all we've done there is basically give us a soft close to say, there's a good chance when I come back to you, I wanted 60 originally, and I need to now get to that number, right? So the seller, it's not like a shock to the system. So anyone that's new watching, I'd just throw that out there as
Yeah,
well.
no, I agree 100%. So looks like we lost Dave for a minute. I'm sure
Yeah.
he'll be back.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw this question up here. So, do you recommend buying a home right now in these times, or sitting back waiting in hopes that the market will drop? It seems these days average mortgage is about 2K a month plus bills. Um, so I'm not entirely sure what the question is. If you're talking about buying your own personal residence, or you're talking about buying a property for fix and flip.
Yep.
I will say I just recently bought a personal residence. I talk about this openly. I paid retail. It makes me sick. That's totally against every religious
I
belief I have.
I did when I bought mine as well.
Yeah.
So
When you're never going to find your perfect house through a deal usually.
yeah.
And I just recently did. And ultimately my situation and the way I'm doing it and the way I position myself, if the market does have any correction, I will be fine in that property. I may lose a little bit of the money I put into it in equity, but I'm okay with that. It's a home that I don't mind keeping for a lot of years. So my situation was one that just made sense. It could potentially be a bad investment. That's fine, but I'm in a position to make a bad investment.
Yeah.
So your situation is gonna be different. Go ahead, Gavin.
No, yeah, and I agree. I mean, I'm trying to buy a house in Phoenix right now, and
Yeah.
I'm buying retail, and I've been offering 56. I've been offering 40, 50K on two homes over asking to try and get in. Well, my play is exactly the same. Like, look at the payment. I'm putting a 30-year mortgage on it, so I'm holding it. I'm going to bring 25% down, and I'm in it for the long haul. The market goes, I know it's going to be back
Yeah.
eventually. So again, I'm not bothered. But on the investment side, I think it's a personally, as long as if you're talking from a fix and flip, I'm all about buying. But it's all about what you buy at. You make money when you buy, and yeah, the market's crazy, but also the prices are high, so your spreads can be bigger. And our goal for us, Don, and I don't know about you, is that we want to sell. We want to be in and out in 12 weeks, right? We want to list it within 4 to 8 weeks and have it sold within 12 or faster. That's our goal. Now,
Yeah.
if we take a flip that's going to take us 8 months, I've already told you on the last call, I bottled 2 of them. I didn't do it. I would have had 2 million locked up for 8 to 10 months. And I didn't, no, I went gun shy, and I took the wholesale fees on them. So
Yeah.
that's my take.
No, and I agree 100%. Here's where people lost their asses, for lack of a better term, in the 2008 situation, 2007, 2008,
Uh-huh.
2009. It was speculation, right? They were
Yeah.
betting the market. They were buying the property at or above retail with the anticipation that the property was going to increase in value by the time they had renovated it or it was built. Some people were buying dirt, right? And then the house was going to be built, and then they're going to be able to sell it and make a profit. And that's ultimately the Achilles heel. You start to get comfortable. You think it's never going to end. You let your guard down and you start buying stupid. I did the same thing. I positioned myself stupidly and I lost a lot of money because you never think it's going to end. And so no matter what your strategy is, whether it's sub two, buy and hold, fix and flip, creative, like I said, or, you're buying it straight out cash. Ultimately at the end of the day, you have to make sure that you're positioning yourself. Dave's back. You have to make sure you're positioning yourself in that property so if there is a market correction, you are going to be fine. In Fresno, in the Central Valley, we dropped about 25% in value. So if you're buying a property and you're all in that property and you're 70% of the current ARV, let's just say all in using the typical Mayo that's out there, and you're going to have that as a buy and hold or a fix and flip, and the market corrects 25% like it did last time, you should hypothetically be okay and get out and at least break even, right? And so as long as you're using logic and math, numbers, real numbers, you should be all right moving forward if you're buying an investment property of any kind. Long term, like I agree with Gavin, 100-day turn times is the only thing we're going to touch. The market's not going to correct that much in 100 days. So nothing that's going to be a year. I'm not doing it. I don't think the market's going to tank in a year. I think there's too much money out there. I think that they're going to be doing too many crazy things. I think we got a few years in us, but still, I'm not going to get anything long term.
Yeah, and I want to say as well, I think with that question, sitting back and waiting, I just think it's the worst thing you can do in anything, right? You've got to get your mindset and you've got to act today. Always act today, and you pivot and change to the circumstances that's in front of you. And I do that every day, right? We didn't know a pandemic was going to hit. So when the pandemic hit and everyone starts freaking out, we change, we make adjustments, and then we move forward. And I think that's the way to be, because if you sit back and waiting, you could be waiting forever. So you got to go.
Yeah. So another question here. I just started driving for dollars while I DoorDash, which is very cool. What is the best CRM to organize my leads in? Deal Machine, was that ERECT? I'm not even sure.
Etc.
Okay,
Etc.
right. I thought I was thinking it was an app for a second. Okay, never mind. Threw me off.
You got a little bourbon in that coffee?
I might have some bourbon in that coffee. I'm totally new starting out. I also have a how to best access a vacant list question in my area. So go ahead and ask your vacant list question here. Just throw it in here and we'll pop it up. Deal Machine's the most popular one out there right now. It's the most robust. I don't know. Dave, do you use batch driven or Gavin?
Yeah. I do some stuff with batch
I use
driven.
both of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
I use both of them. So you can organize your leads in Deal Machine or batch driven already. Like it has like a mini CRM. Now it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that the big CRMs are going to have, right? It's going to be limited, but let's drop that question just for a second. I'm gonna hide that. Let's talk about, the purpose of a CRM, right? The purpose of a CRM in, 80-20 principle, 80% of the reason that we use a CRM is to take notes on our leads and then to create a task to follow up with them, right? That's really 80% of why I'm ever in a CRM or anybody on my team. Now, of course, we can tag each other and we can put our notes, we can do our analysis and add that in there, but adding notes on what's going on, when's the last time I talked to them? What did we talk to them about? When's the next time I should talk to them? And then created a task to follow up, right? That's the main thing. So if you want to go get a CRM that's got all these bells and whistles, that's great. And in fact, I think everybody on this call probably highly recommends it. I know I do. But the great thing about Deal Machine and Batch Driven, and again, I use both of them. They're both great tools. They both have the ability to add notes and tasks. So in theory, you could organize all of your driving for dollars leads in those apps. Now, if you want the additional bells and whistles and tools, you're going to probably want to take those and put those into an additional CRM or another CRM. That's the short answer.
And I think for any CRM, there's three things. You just kind of touched on them. Was the status that needs to change, right? I'm getting a load of feedback again. Is someone replaying?
Nope, it's just you.
No, I can hear the feedback a little bit, but go ahead. You're good.
Okay. The status, creating a task, and updating the notes. They're the three things that you absolutely need in your CRM. Obviously, if you're doing autoresponders and things like that, and you can really get into it, but to keep it basic, they're the basic things. The other thing is as well, to that particular question, I think using a Deal Machine or whatever you're using, you can keep organized in there, and that works as long as you're not doing any other marketing. If you start to do third-party marketing, That's where Deal Machine's not going to work anymore. That's when you need a CRM, because your CRM is the hub of the business, and your marketing channels will all feed into that CRM to keep you organized. So I just don't like to. The CRM's important, I guess, but it's not going to make you money. It keeps you organized, right? And I think there's a key there. So if you're new, try not overthink it. If Deal Machine's working for you and it's keeping you organized, and you can do them 3 things of status, notes, okay, and creating a task, and then roll with that, make some money, and then when you start adding marketing channels, you need to get into a CRM.
I someone have a little bit different opinion to a degree. I think that you should try to have a CRM implemented in your organization from almost day one. One, because it's a lot harder to try to clean up a mess when you're in the middle of the weeds.
It is.
And to learn a program. I think if you have the ability, there's some free ones out there. If you have the ability to get in and start to learn it as you go and start to track things as you go, I think it's very important. A lot of us are entrepreneurs. We don't do that. I'm the king at somebody made a comment one time, like I'm in a bulldozer and I'm just plowing everything down and leaving a destruction behind me. You know, and that's how we are as entrepreneurs. And that's why we build teams to clean up our messes for us. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if you can get in the habit of, you know, being organized and documenting and being in a CRM, in the long term, you're going to be able to bring a team in around you. It's going to be able to utilize that to help you become very, very successful. And my CRM makes me a ton of money, so much money, it's ridiculous. I can count over $200,000 just in January that my CRM made me, because my CRM has documented every single lead that's ever come in my organization in the last, I don't know how many years. And follow up is my most profitable marketing channel out there. 100%. And we've been back 1, 2, 3 years in our CRM and bought stuff that's been in there for, you know, 36 months or more right now in this market, because the comp has changed, because the ARV has changed, not because the seller situation's changed. They wanted the same amount of money. In some cases, they wanted a little bit more, but we were able to buy because that property went up $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in value. And now we were able to either wholesale it or flip it. So my CRM has made a ton of money. So I'm not completely disagreeing with you, Gavin, but I just want to throw that contrary thought out there.
No, absolutely. But I also feel that the CRM is people hide behind it.
They business cards, websites, and CRMs. I agree.
Exactly. So that's my other concern when I asked that. And again, if he was on and we were talking to him, we'd know what type of person he is. Where if he's going to be kind of like an introvert, he's going to be like, oh yeah, I want a CRM, and I'm just going to live in there and not do anything and make any money, right? True. So
yeah,
I think I 100% agree with you.
From a coaching standpoint, don't overcomplicate it. Just take action. The simpler you put yourself, the better. I agree with that 1,000%. From a business standpoint and building your future standpoint.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
and I agree with that as well, because it is a nightmare to move. So
yeah. All right. So yeah, but it was, so Matt threw another question. How would I find and buy a vacant list? Like what company to purchase from? There are a lot of them out there that have vacants. Do you guys use anybody in particular?
Yeah, we've got actually. What you could do, Matt, is if you go to, I think I've got it here actually. If you go to batchleads.io/closers, you can actually pull a free vacant list from there. We have like 5,000 records that you can have for free. So that's one of the resources that I use. Also, guys, we use PropStream as well.
Yeah, we have a link in here for PropStream as well. So,
yeah. So there's the other thing. If you go to that, follow that link, propstreampro.com/closers, you can get a free trial and check that out as well. But they're 2 resources that I like, guys. And then there's obviously a lot more, right? There's List Source and we could go in into more things. So.
No, for the money, Batch or PropStream, both. Especially both of them have, you know, Batch has some free leads. PropStream has a free trial. I would check them both out. Honestly, see which one you like better. Is what I would do if I were you. Is go into both of them, see which one you like to play in better, and ultimately choose the one that's gonna be best for you. They're both reasonably priced. At the end of the day, when you're pulling lists through a company like List Source, you're talking about 10 to 12 cents a lead. That stuff adds up significantly. Being able to go into either one of these other services on a monthly basis, on a regular basis, comp your properties, pull your list, do all those other crazy things, ultimately is a game changer.
Yeah.
Yep. Even if you were able to get a discount code, I remember for years and years, I got a discount code for List Source. I think it was through Yellow Letter HQ that had given me the code, and it brought the price of the leads in list source from like you said, Don, 10 or 11 cents down to like 3 cents, which is a substantial discount, but you can still get those leads over in, batch leads or PropStream for like a penny at this point. They're like a penny.
Yeah,
so that's going to probably be your most cost-effective approach to get leads, especially the vacants. I mean, the vacant leads are, man, I don't know about you guys, but I would say 75% or more of the deals that we're buying in my market here in the Midwest in Missouri are vacant houses. Now, they may or may not be on the vacant list, but when I buy them, there's nobody living in them. They're vacant houses, right? Yep. And the USPS is actually the one that marks houses as vacant or not. So that data, the vacant data, is actually coming from the United States Postal Service.
But here's something I learned. That takes about 6 months for that to update. So it probably is going to be vacant for almost 6 months before it updates in the USPS file, which means D for D, you're going to be the first one to see it, right?
D for D,
driving for
That's right. That's exactly right. Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, PropStream, batch leads, both great resources. I use both of those daily. Literally I use them both daily, and they have great data. It's super cost effective.
Yeah, for sure. And again, if you want to get them trials, guys, just do /closers. Okay. And you'll be hooked up with some free stuff. No, that's good. So what other questions? Do we have another question, Don? Sorry, I flipped over. Let me see.
I don't think we do right now, actually. So a couple of comments, but no questions.
All right. So what else then are you guys kind of working on? What's how's business looking for you?
Business has been good. It's really hard to get a house right now at 50 or 60 cents on the dollar like we typically like to buy, just because the market's so hot. But we're still buying deals. In fact, we contracted one yesterday. We contracted 2 or 3 last week. In fact, I think right now pending deals that we're closing, it's somewhere around 12 or 14 deals that we have in the pipeline right now. And these are buy and holds, by the way. This isn't wholesales or even flicks and flips. This is, let's call it 14. I think we're at 14 right now. We have 14 pending rentals. So there's still deals out there, even with this market in its current craziness and the conditions that we're facing with, supply shortages. There are still deals to be had out there. You just got to market. You got to get up and make some noise and let people know that you are interested in buying properties. And I would say of the 14 that's pending, in my business, I would say 9, maybe 10 were referrals. They weren't from a cold call or a postcard or a cold text. They were referrals from agents that had listings or knew people, and for whatever reason, either the owner / seller, it's the same person, right? The owner or the seller either didn't want to list the property, or the agent didn't want to mess with it because the condition was bad, right? Most of the properties that I'm buying, not all, but most, they need 20 grand worth of work or more. Some are 30, 40, 80 grand, right? Now, we're not buying rentals that need 80 grand. Typically, we like to see, less than 30,000 of rehab on rentals. Typically, though, we're putting in, about 15 to 20. I think our average over the last 100 rental properties that we bought, the average is about 18 grand worth of rehab. So the point that I'm trying to make here, though, guys, is do not underestimate the value of networking. Networking is so incredibly important. You're going to get leads from it. The more you do it, the longer you're in this business, and the more noise you make, the more people are going to know that you're in the business, and the more people are going to know that you buy houses, and the more people are going to bring you deals. And another great thing about networking is it doesn't cost any money to network. So if you're new to this game, guys, and you don't have, 2 or 3 or 5 grand a month or 30 grand a month, whatever, to put into a marketing budget. So your phone starts ringing, right? You either need to get some, do some efforts to bring other people's phones, or get out to the local real estate clubs or network with real estate agents. Or, I mean, it's not even just real estate agents that you can network with, right? So, I mean, I could probably name at least 5 to 10 different types of people to network with. So if you're looking for other people other than agents, network with property management companies, network with title companies. I probably get one call a week from the various title companies around St. Louis, letting me know that the seller showed up to close and the buyer didn't. So you have a motivated seller that's ready to go and they can't sell it and they want to. So what do? They connect me with that person, and I go out and I say, hey, I don't know if you were going to get an offer higher than where I'm at, but here's where I'm at. Boom, it gets me my foot in the door. So, property management companies, title companies, probate attorneys, divorce attorneys, and the list goes on and on and on. So anybody and everybody that are dealing with homeowners, or dealing with distressed situations, there it is. REI Network, guys, the importance of networking. It is so incredibly important. And at the end of the day, it requires time to network, not money, right? Unless you're talking about your gas, come on, right? You're going to be traveling anyway, right?
But even if you're virtual, you can still network. You can still
even if you're virtual, you can still network, right? And really, networking doesn't have to be done in person. I think that's where Gavin's heading with this, right? You can get on the phone, pick up the phone, call the title companies in your area, call the property management companies. I think my first 5 deals, when I started in this business full time 6-7 years ago, my first 5 deals were from property managers, right? Sometimes you have people that have a rental property and they have a management company and they may or may not live near that property. And if that property gets trashed, they may not have the money to fix that property up. So the property manager is basically taking care of that vacant property while the owner is either finding the resources to fix it up, or they're trying to find a buyer to come fix this problem for them. So if you can contact the property managers and just say, hey, I'm looking to buy some deals. Do you have any properties that are in limbo right now? Right? They either, you can't rent them, or you're waiting on the seller or the owner of that property to come in and fix them up so you can, and they're just in limbo. Maybe they're interested in selling. So networking with any other individual that may be involved in some way, shape, or form in real estate or dealing with people that own real estate make for amazing lead sources.
Absolutely.
So what seems like the best marketing for you to find these leads? We said this last week, the marketing that you do.
That is Don. I love that.
We talked
the marketing that you do.
The one you focus on, right?
The one you focus on. Here's the thing, guys. There is probably 100 ways to go about finding motivated sellers. There's probably 300 or 400 ways, but there's about 100 proven ways that everybody on this call here, is essentially doing at some point in their business. And it's the one that you do that is.
Well, let's ask this. What's your number one, Dave? What's your number one marketing source?
I would say right now it's a mix between cold calling and cold texting, and I group them together because it's basically skip tracing leads from wherever. It could be driving for dollars, could be lists pulled from Batch or PropTrim or whatever. But then we're reaching out. It's outbound marketing on our end, which requires time and money to get those leads. So I group those together. However, things are changing. So, in 2 months from now, it may not be that, right? But right now it's cold calling and cold texting. In general,
mine's cold calling is my number one, again, because that's what we mainly focus on. We do a little bit of texting, we do a little bit of direct mail, but number one is cold calling. But again, that's where my efforts go. And then Dom, what are you? Are you direct mail?
So I'm direct mail and cold calling, and I just actually did a little exercise here recently where we went through and dug in really heavily on all our marketing channels, and so I break my direct mail into split tests, right? Same thing with cold calling, different things like that. We split test lists. And so direct cold calling is my number one channel closing right now for closed contracts this year. My number one channel for closed contracts this year as a single channel. But you take direct mail and follow up, and you take follow up on direct mail, there are there's multiple lists, multiple campaigns combined that beat out cold calling totally. But that's a combination of fresh direct mail and follow up. So, but ultimately, the one that stands out on the top of the list is cold calling right now.
Yeah.
That makes
Because
sense.
at the end of the day, if you're talking to people, you're making money. That's the thing. If you're not, I tell all my clients, if you're not on one of these, you're not making money. So that's why I like it. I don't like to wait for the phone to ring. I like to get it ringing, right? And that's why I like outbound marketing. But there's more effort to it. There's more effort. There's more follow up. You're not going to close things as quickly as a potentially direct mail, but your ROI, return on investment, is what I found is better with the outbound marketing, but it's a little more work. Well, it's definitely
100%.
more work.
Yeah. So, and I did direct mail for pretty heavy for years. I talk about this all the time. Between 2018 and 19, I sent out 2 million postcards. When I do direct mail,
You sent 2 million postcards over
postcards
2 years?
over 2 years. So,
Wow.
and that, ultimately that was my number one marketing channel. The only reason that I am more heavy, I would say, cold calling at this point in time is just because the sales cycles changed a little bit with COVID, and it's cheaper. It's a cheaper way to deploy. But direct mail works really, really, really well. So, yeah. So at the end of the day, it's the one you do, and the one I'm focused on most right now is cold calling. Let me throw this up here. So I just blocked out Dave's face.
It's all good. I'm still here, guys.
Have you had success leaving letters or flyers at vacant houses? My thought was to leave one letter at the vacant house and possibly then leave letters at the neighbor's house next door. And if they happen to know the owner of the vacant houses, then skip trace. These are houses in was it 500K areas minimum and safe for me to walk up to. Okay, I'll drop this down. So I would first and foremost, I don't know your market. I don't know if you're like in LA or the Bay Area when you're talking about 500K minimum. I know it in some places in Oakland, a 500K minimum house is not a safe neighborhood. So I'm assuming that's probably high end in your market. I would if there's vacant properties in 500K neighborhoods, number one, hey, knock yourself out, go for that property. That's probably going to be a home run for you. If that's high end in your market, though, I'm going to tell you right now, high end it's a tough place to focus on if you're going to do any volume moving forward. Your buyer pool is going to be smaller. If you're going to rehab it, your rehab is going to take longer. Your ROI is just not there for high end. If that's the Bay Area or LA or New York or something where high end is just insane, high prices are insane for let's see here. So New Jersey. Okay. So New Jersey, North Carolina. Yeah. So okay, fair enough. So ultimately, I would just say the strategy sounds fine. Leave a letter there. Chances are they're probably not going to get it. Talk to the neighbor. I wouldn't just leave a letter for the neighbor. I'd knock on the door and have a conversation with the neighbors 100%. On each side and across the street. Leave a letter if you don't get a hold of them. Skip trace it. It's all fantastic. But I would not just stay in that neighborhood. I would go in neighborhoods. Hey, look, maybe it's me. I don't have the fear factor, but I'll go into sketchy neighborhoods and knock on doors because I make the most money in sketchy neighborhoods. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you buy a house for 15 grand, you put 40 into it, and you sell it for 150, 175. You're knocking it out of the park. So your ROI, right? Your annualized ROI, your ROI on the project is just off the chart. So.
Yeah, and I want to say, Matt, who asked that question, make sure that you are skip tracing it and you are looking it up, right? So in either, again, Batch or PropStream are two examples where you can actually look up who owns the property and where they live. You can skip trace them, you can call them, and you can send them a mail to their mailing house about that vacant property. So make sure you're doing that as well. But you need to be hitting it, I guess, from all angles. That's what I would say. And that goes as well for the Driving for Dollars for me as well. Like Driving for Dollars is a great list. It's organic, you built it, and also it's a smaller list normally. So I like to hit it with cold call, text, and direct mail because it's not going to. You're not pulling a list of 5,000 people where you're going to do all of that. We're talking maybe a couple hundred properties at a time when you do it. So hit it in all marketing channels because you'll bring different leads in as well.
Love it. And if you want to get gangster,
It's got that Nashville cough. I had that too.
I got the Nashville hit, right? I didn't get COVID though, so we're good. So if you want to get really gangster, really, this is like a gangster move. Put a sign right in front of the house that says, "I want to buy this house. Got info? Call me at blah blah blah." Put your number on it. You just
I love that. That's a great strategy.
Right in front of the house. Yeah. Somebody's going to have information.
There are so many uses to blank bandit signs. If you are new, I'd highly recommend you go buy 100, 200 bandit signs. I mean, what's a bandit sign cost, guys? I buy thousands of them at a time, so I don't even know, like $1.50 or $1. I mean, you could probably get them locally at a sign shop. But if you go on, there's some sites that we use. Signs on the Cheap, I know, is a really good one to get them really, really inexpensive. But buy blank ones, because from there you can get a big fat Sharpie, right? And you can write "We Buy Houses" with your number, and you can go put those out to get motivated seller leads. You can put signs in the yard, like Don just said. Such an awesome approach, saying, "I want to buy this house with a freaking arrow and it's 10 feet from the front door. Call me," right? You can use bandit signs to find motivated buyers, right? The cash buyers. You get a house under contract, go find, 10 telephone poles right around the area, on the edges of the street and a couple streets over and the big intersection up the way, saying, 3-bedroom, 2-bath must sell, and your number. Blank bandit signs are one of the best tools for the newbies getting started, because you can use them in multiple different ways to find those sellers, find those buyers, maybe even find joint venture partners for somebody else that has a deal or has a buyer. Doesn't matter. Love that.
Yeah.
Don,
while we're on with the signs as well, you can go to the auctions, right? As well, and you can have a sign there. I got that from Brandon Simmons, a friend of mine, and he had "Hey, text this number if you want to buy a deal today," because all these people at the auctions have got ready to go with cash. They're ready to bid, right? They're ready to go. So he used to pick up a very active buyers list by doing that as well.
Love it. Great approach, man. Great approach. Bandit signs are powerful, guys. Do not discount the power of bandit signs.
And one more is, and then we'll move on, is if you're doing creative deals, okay, your bandit sign can say something like, "We buy houses regardless of equity." Okay, "We buy houses regardless of equity" is a good sign if you're doing any creative deals. So anyway, let's roll.
100%.
Love it. Guys, we got some more questions. Let's keep it rocking. I have never used PropStream, but the cost is $100 a month just for access to the system, correct? And then you pay to pull lists and skip trace. So yes and no. It's $100 a month for the basic package. I believe that gives you app access. I've been a customer for almost 2 years at this point. So it's $100 a month, but that includes, Luke, 10,000 exports. So basically you can get 10,000 leads included, not on top, included for that $100 a month. So 10,000 divided by 100 is 1 penny. That means you're basically getting leads for 1 penny up to 10,000. If you want to up that to 20,000, 50,000, 100,000, you can do so. There's an upcharge to do so. But 10,000 leads a month, assuming you're in one market, for most investors or small companies is more than enough. Like I barely go over 10. I think I pay for 100,000 leads. And I barely go over 10,000. I mean, most months it's less than that. PropStream's great because they have the app. I'm sure Batch is working on theirs as well. And then the cost of skip tracing, no matter where you are, typically is going to be a la carte extra. So again, yes and no. But for $100 a month, you get unlimited comps and unlimited data on running information on individual properties. So you're not limited to 10,000, comps or 10,000 property record polls to view the data. It's only if you want to export that data that you're capped at 10,000. And then again, the skip tracing is a la carte. I personally do all my skip tracing over in Batch Leads because they have the match savings. And maybe PropStream has it. I don't know. I can't speak.
Yeah, I know it does. You can skip trace, but again, I don't use it for that personally. So Don, you might use it, but me and Dave both use Batch, don't we?
We use SkipForce for skip tracing, and they will remove the duplicates as well.
Awesome. So the match savings is huge, guys. Again, PropStream may have that ability, but personally, I would never skip trace somewhere that doesn't. So like Batch skip tracing is more of their a la carte platform, Whereas batch leads, obviously, it's part of the batch services company, guys. They're using the same skip tracing as batch skip tracing over in batch leads, but the match savings is huge. Literally last month, I saved $1,000, right? $1,000 on adding leads to skip trace that I already owned. I already own the data. So why pay for it twice? And in fact, I barely spent $1,000. I don't even think I did last month. So I basically saved more money than I spent by doing it over at Batch. So highly recommend you guys check out Batch Leads for skip tracing. Don's uses Skip Force. I'm sure they're just as good. Love it. But the match savings is really where it's at. That's the most important thing.
And let me just throw in there, that's assuming that all you do on PropStream is pull lists, right? PropStream, you can comp, you can do all kinds of stuff. I mean, PropStream is robust
list,
platform.
skip trace. They have direct mail now. The mobile, I use the mobile app on PropStream more than I use any other feature with it.
Right.
Just because if I'm in the field or I'm headed to an appointment, I can pull it up. I can get information on, what the estimated value is. Then I'll dive into the actual comps to determine my own estimated value. And one of my favorite tools on there is finding out what they owe. Like you can see the mortgages and any other liens, but also you can see if they have any unpaid taxes. And it's really, really helpful going into a motivated seller appointment, right? Going out and viewing a property. I know Gavin doesn't do that a whole lot because he's the virtual one here. I'm kind of jealous, but I run a lot of my own appointments, right? And it's really nice to know when I'm out, at a property that, in the back of my head, I know, hey, they most likely owe 130. They're asking 200. This would probably be a deal at 140. Can I get them below that? Because they only owe 130. So having that information, super valuable. Also, if going into an appointment that they haven't paid taxes in 2 or 3 years, I wouldn't lead with that. I wouldn't say, oh, hey, Mr. Seller, I noticed on my way over here that you hadn't paid your taxes. Probably not the wisest thing to lead with or talk about. But again, if you know that information, right, that there is some motivation there. There is some level of distress. And they may not tell you that. Oftentimes, they probably won't. But going in that there could be liens. You may know what they owe on those liens. And then also, if they're going to be current or not on their taxes. So just those little tips and tricks are super helpful. And, it gives you kind of, some power in your ability to negotiate and make those offers.
Yeah, absolutely. I always like to ask as well, because the mortgage, when you ask someone the mortgage, if they don't know you, they don't want to give that information. So, we often say, hey, is there a mortgage that we need to pay off at closing if we buy this house? They will say, yes. Well, what is that? Oh, we owe 100,000. Okay. How much do you want to walk away with at closing? So if you're trying to get an offer, where is the seller at? This is a good way without saying, well, what do you want, Mr. Seller? How much will you take? You can back off from the mortgage. It's 100K. Mr. Seller, how much do you want to walk away with? Oh, I want to walk away with 20 grand. Well, guess what? They're at the 120 mark. That's what their offer is. So that's another trick in the sales cycle to actually get an offer from the seller without saying, hey, Mr. Seller, what will you, what do you want for this house? If they're not going to give you the number.
Gavin, that is phenomenal advice. Guys, let me tell you one of my favorite tools when I'm out on an appointment with a seller. Change your framing. And another way to word this is change your mindset. Just change the way you think about things for a second. So I never go out to a seller and sit down with them after, typically I'll walk the property first and we'll talk about the repairs and I'll sometimes I'll even hand my repair sheet to the seller and I'll say, hey, let's do this together. Let's go around and let's find all the items that, are going to need to be fixed or repaired or updated, right? But then once we sit down at the table, it's never me versus the seller. And if you have that mindset, you're going to fail or you're just not going to be as successful, of course, right? I wouldn't say fail, but you're not going to be as successful. A way to really improve your closing percentages, right? That's what this is all about, closing deals here, right?
Yep.
Is to change your whole framing and your whole mindset to talk about the fact that it's not me versus you. Instead, it's me and you, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, versus the market. So it's not just I'm going to make you this offer and it's me versus you. Instead, it's me and you versus the market. And here's how you do it. You sit down with them and you run comps. Bring your phone, bring your laptop, pull up PropStream or Batch Leads and run those comps. And you can, collectively, you can say, hey, wouldn't you agree that a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in this neighborhood fixed up, not current condition, but fixed up is going to be equal to, 200,000, right? You can find 5 or 6 comparables that have sold recently that are fixed that have sold for 200,000. So there's really no, like, it's not opinion based necessarily. It's kind of factual. Like, shouldn't we agree that the 200,000 is the number that it's going to be worth when we're all done? All right, great. Now, as an investor, I'm going to discount this a little bit because I don't do this for free. This is a profit business for me, and I'm an investor. I'm gonna make a profit, so I'm gonna discount it. Then take off the repairs. Now you have your MAO, right, or your number. And if you want to increase your repairs to cover your wholesale fee, whatever it may be, or another approach is to increase your spread a little bit to cover the wholesale fee. I don't typically like talking about wholesale fees when I'm trying to be transparent with the seller, right? But regardless, you now come up with your MAO. So whenever you get that number and you use the calculator and you're writing this down on a piece of paper in front of them, it's not a shock when they see that low number. Because again, it's not like me versus you. Instead, it's me and you versus the market. So the way I approach it is I say, guys, I say, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, I'm going to show you how investors make offers. And I am an investor. So this offer that we come up with together is not only my offer, and I'm here right now, but it's also going to typically be how all the other investors are going to determine that offer amount. And sellers love this. They love the transparency. And oftentimes it prevents them from calling 3 or 4 or 5 more investors to try to get those offers, because I'm teaching them how the offers are made, not only by me, but by everybody right then and there. So when they see that number, you've started with those comps in that ARV and you've agreed on that. And then you've broken down how those offers are made. And I'm just telling you, whenever you do that, it is going to increase your ability to close your transactions tenfold.
Love it. Good. Don, what you got?
We got a few questions here. Let me go back to this one. So with 5 million people in foreclosure and only 2 million were delinquents in 2008, do you think in late 2020 we will have crazy amount of foreclosures? I don't. And I was the guy who said that the sky was kind of probably going to fall when COVID hit. I'm the one that said, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And I did. I shored up my house, laid the foundation for stuff to fall apart, and it didn't. And as I'm watching what the market's doing, the amount of money that the government is pumping into the market, the lessons that we learned from 2008, I don't think we're going to have a flood of foreclosures. I think there's going to be a ton of foreclosures. I think the banks are going to be a lot more purposeful in working with people through modifications. They're more prepared to do that this time around. I think that any foreclosures that happen, they'll be. In fact, we are just having this conversation, with a group of investors the other day, and we're all kind of on the same page. I think that we're going to be seeing them dripped out very slowly. In 2008, there was a lot of shadow inventory where banks basically held on to properties in a backlog for quite a few years and leaked them out slowly into the public, so it didn't completely destroy the market. I think we're going to see a lot more of that this time. So I'm not as much the sky is falling at this point in time. I think there's so many things in play right now that there's an impact, and people are going to be losing their homes and stuff's going to happen. I don't think we're going to see the impact of it the way we did in 2008. I just don't. I just think there's going to be too much, going on that we're not going to see that's going to prevent us from having the impact we had in 2008. But that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Gavin, what do you think?
I find it hard to comment on it really, because my whole mindset is that, they've been saying it's been crashing for like 2-3 years now, right? And it just keeps going up. So my opinion is that there will be a correction, is the right word, at some point. But I believe if you buy right, you can't lose, right? If you're wholesaling, you can't lose. If you're buying on seller finance, owner finance, you're locking in the mortgages. If you're doing wraps, whatever, and it's cash flowing, okay, and it's on a long-term period, you can't lose. If you're flipping and you're in and out within 8 to 12 weeks, you can't lose. And then what happens is it starts to go. If the mortgage rates go up, I believe the mortgage rates have got to change, and they've got to start going in the other direction. And that's when things will start to turn, in my opinion, right? When we start to see that, that's when I'm going to be paying more attention to it. I just don't look at it too much, guys. I know we're here to answer that question because it's scary. People are investing right now, but if you buy right, you can't lose because you can get out and you can sell and make your money and you're on to the next one.
So, man, that is such a
Stay
great
ahead of
point,
it.
guys. You make your money when you buy. You
Yeah.
get paid when you sell. And that's why my brand is called Discount Property Investor, because we buy all of our property at a discount, and you should too. If you buy at a good price, you're protected, right? So, Gavin, I agree 100%. Don, I don't disagree with what you said. I just don't know, right? That's a tough one. Definitely a tough one for sure. I don't think that the banks are going to flood the market with these foreclosures, because what's that going to do to the value of the property they're trying to sell? It's going to tank it. I mean, think about it. If you are a bank and you got 200,000 properties in foreclosure at your big bank, are you going to just put them all out for sale tomorrow? Hell no, because then it's going to tank the market. So they're going to probably put these out, slowly drip them out. Is it going to have an effect? Yeah, of course it's going to have some effect, because we haven't had tons of foreclosures recently due to COVID, but I don't think it's going to tank the market. That's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I agree.
And nobody knows. Nobody knew that COVID was going to make the market go crazy and insane. Nobody knew that. So everything is an educated guess and a bet. And that's an important thing to throw out there. So let's see here.
I've got one of my acquisition guys actually on. I'm glad he said he was eating lunch and he's going to get back on the phone. So Scotty Free, how you doing? But I want to bring a question that he brought up here. Scotty asked, he first asked this. So yeah, I'm heading to Alabama, so I'll see you tomorrow. And then this question here: how do you guys feel about comps at PropStream and Batch? So we use a lot Zillow. We do use Zillow for solds, especially because we can pull comps in one of our areas. But what are you guys using to pull comps, and what do you feel about the two that he's asking?
Okay, so first I want to point out that you said that when you use comps for Zillow, you didn't say the Zestimate. You said you're using solds. Okay, I want to point that out. Yeah.
Yes.
I want to make sure that people are hearing that, because the Zestimate is generally garbage. Right now it might be a good bet because the market's on fire, but typically it's garbage. And then ultimately, like for the markets that we have MLS access, we're ultimately using the MLS because nothing beats the MLS. Nothing, at the end of the day, we're in states right now where we don't have MLS access. We're using PropStream and tax records to pull comps. And comps at the end of the day, they're an educated guess. I mean, it's a little bit of experience. It's a little bit of gut. It's a little bit of a roll of the dice to a certain degree. As long as you're doing it smart and you're staying within major cross streets, you're staying within a subdivision that's built in 1960. You're not betting on a subdivision built in 2005, those kind of things. You're generally going to get it right. And so, Zillow solds are a great way to do that. PropStream, is a great way to do that. Just don't be going too far out, and don't be making sure they're like properties in year and size and square footage and beds and baths, and you should be okay. So,
yep.
I agree completely. Sometimes PropStream, I've noticed that, like, for example, a property, like we just locked one up yesterday. It has a value of about 120. It's a little rental, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, very small, 900 square foot house. And the Zestimate was like 105. And we ran our own comps, and the value is probably around 115, 120. However, it's listed for sale right now. So it's actually an on-market property. It's a short sale, and it's only listed for like 60,000. So of course, PropStream's gonna change their number to say, well, the value isn't 120 if it's actually on sale listed right now for 60, right? Yeah. So in that scenario, the Zestimate was closer. But I think the takeaway here is don't just look at one. Don't look at the Zestimate. Don't look at the PropStream value. Don't look at the batch leads value. Look at all of those values and then run your own comps. And sometimes I'll even go to realtor.com and pull an estimate. I'll go to Redfin and pull an estimate. Sometimes I'll have 5 or 6 estimates to try to figure out, hey, is there 3 or 4 of them that are close? Cool, I'm going to probably average those. But at the end of the day, I never run with an estimate. Ever. I use that information to help weigh what I think it's going to be. But in order to get a true estimated after repair value, I always look at those comps. And it may not be like I'm doing a deep dive, guys. I mean, you could look at, super, super close houses in proximity and figure out if they're similar in size and type. And you only need to find a couple typically, right? But typically you can do this in like under 3 minutes, right? So like we're running comps before we have a contract, right? Before. It is super rare that I'm spend more than 5 minutes on that task. Now, after we have a contract, I'm gonna do a deep dive. I'm gonna spend 15, 20 minutes in some scenarios, making sure that number is the number. But prior to the contract, don't spend 30 minutes trying to figure it out. You're just gonna be wasting time.
Yeah,
right?
we and Scotty knows this well because he asked the question. Sometimes, like if we can't find comps, right, the zest we know doesn't mean anything. We'll do 50% of it for the zest, and it'll get us in the ballpark, right? Because it's the speed of making them offers as well. Our first choice is look at solds. If we can get 2 or 3 solds, similar size, right, beds, baths, single story versus 2-story, whatever, then we're ready to go to make that offer and on to the next.
Exactly. Love it. Great question, by the way. Great question.
Yeah. Cool. We got anything else?
You guys aren't in a hurry today, right? I was thinking maybe we go another 20, 30 minutes or so. I'm having fun.
I'm gonna take a little break here real quick and run out of here for a minute, but I'm good for the 20, 30 minutes. So,
cool.
All right. As soon as Don gets back, I'm gonna get off because I gotta get to the airport.
Yep, no problem. I'll be here, guys.
Let me do that. Let me do that real quick, and then Gavin, you can run.
All right. Yeah, I'll wait for him to get back. Cool. Let me ask you a question, Dave.
You got it.
We talked about buying rentals, right? We talked about you doing vacants, buying them most vacant, whether it was on the vacant list. Will you buy a property that with a renter in there?
Yes.
All right. So
I love buying property.
Okay, so you'll buy a property with a renter in there. So what are you looking for? What do they need to have? What information do you need to have to purchase that property with the tenant in place?
So if the price is low enough, I don't need any information at all. Doesn't matter.
So even if they're not paying, you will do the eviction.
100%. I like the ones the most that the tenant hasn't paid. They refuse to leave. I got to evict, because really all that means to me is that cost in time, I'm going to discount 3 to 5 times that amount on my offer. Right. 100%. So what are we doing, Gavin? We're buying problems from people. So the tenants that aren't paying, they trash the house. They got 42 people living there and 7 dogs. Those are my favorite ones because I'm able to get those properties at 30, 40, 50 cents on the dollar, right? Yep. Problems equal profits, people. Problems equal profits.
Yeah,
so,
I love that.
So typically it doesn't matter. Now, if the tenant's current and they're in good standing, I'm typically only going to want to see 2 things. I want to see the lease. I want to make sure they have a lease. If they don't have one, again, not a big deal. I'll still buy it, but I'm going to discount it even more. But I want to see the lease because I want to see, if they have a deposit, how much the rent is, when it ends. Are they in a month to month, or am I obligated to honor the existing lease? Right. And then number 2 is I want to see the rent rolls. And the reason I want to see the rent rolls is I want to see, are they paying on time? That's what the rent rolls typically show you, when they pay, how much they're paying and when they're paying. I also want to see, are they paying late fees if they're late, right? Because if they're not, we're going to start charging them, right? And again, the lease is going to outline what those late fees are, how much per day, when they start. Looks like we got Don back. We'll add them back. So on and so forth, right? So typically a lease and a rent roll is all I need. But if they don't have that, it doesn't mean I'm not going to buy it. In fact, I'm buying 2 right now. Of the 14 I was talking about earlier, I'm buying 2. One, the tenant hasn't paid in 4 months. And the other, they're behind maybe 1 or 2 months. So we'll have to evict 1, maybe 2. But the other one, we're going to obviously try to go get them caught up and work with them. My business isn't typically trying to find houses with unruly people and evict them. That's not the game here. That's not the goal. But as an investor, this is a business.
Yeah.
And if they aren't paying, then that's what we'll do. And the cost to evict in Missouri, everywhere is going to be a little different, guys. The cost to evict in Missouri, don't quote me on this, but I think we maybe pay $300 or $400. It takes about 2 months. Now, obviously, over COVID, there was a delay there, but we're back. We can evict it.
Yeah.
And you're talking, maybe 2 months, and you're talking maybe $300-400. So it's not that expensive. The biggest thing is the opportunity cost on the lost rent. That's your main issue.
So,
but again,
so just to round
that
up
into
then,
the offer, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah. So just to round that up, we can buy properties with tenants in, right?
Absolutely.
If they're paying on time, we get the rent rolls, we get the information, then great, we can move forward. If it isn't, if they're not paying rent and they haven't for months, fine, okay. We're just going to get a deeper discount. We're going to cover for what's ahead of us, right? If we can get it at a real low discount, okay. So that was good. I wanted to point that out.
Our main man, Ricardo. What's up,
Ricardo?
He's down in Tulum. Man, I am.
He's everywhere. He called me at the weekend.
Hopefully he's got a coffee to have with us here this morning, this afternoon in some places, depending on where you're at. I love it, man. Ricardo is the man. Love that guy. We got the three of us plus him have a picture with us all smoking some stogies down there. I'll have to find that and dig that up. That's
true. Yeah.
Great picture. Love that picture.
Right.
All right, let's keep it moving. What do we got?
I'm going. So good to see you all. Appreciate you everyone joining and listening. Make sure as well, we should have said this earlier, make sure that you share this as much as you can. Okay, share it to your social media, take a picture, post it, whatever you can. We appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you. I'll leave you to it. Now I can just exit out and we're good, right?
Yeah, you're good.
All right.
Awesome.
Appreciate you.
Later,
Thanks,
Gavin.
guys.
We'll see you soon, buddy. All right, what do we got next? Let's find some more questions here. We got some good ones here today.
We have more comments right now than questions, but I think
how do you guys feel about comps at PropStream versus Batch? We covered that, right?
Yeah, I don't know that we did. I don't know we actually straight up answered
Throw
that
it up
one.
there.
Yeah, and then I don't have. I'll be honest. Like we have PropStream. I pull lists out of PropStream. I have somebody in my office do the comps off of PropStream. We haven't used Batch, so I don't have a comment as to which one's better. I think they're very similar, right, Dave?
Yeah, they're very similar. In fact, PropStream's been around a lot longer. The comping service over on Batch Leads has come a really far way. It's come a long way. 3 or 4 months ago, I would have, to be completely honest, I would have said, not there yet, but it's there in my opinion today. Again, when you're running the comps, guys, all you're looking for is sold properties. I don't typically look at actives. I don't even typically look at pendings. Pendings are good to know to see, if properties are selling or not. But the thing about the pending number is it's showing the list amount or the most recent list amount. It's not showing you what it's under contract for. Right. You don't see that until it's sold typically. So
agents and appraisers though will call the listing agent on that property and ask that information. What's in now? You off the street, you're probably not gonna get that information out of somebody, but agents and appraisers will use that information.
That's a great point. I didn't even know that. Man, I'm learning stuff here. This is great. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, guys, don't look at the estimated values. Again, look at them to have more insight and information about the deal, but don't take that estimated value and run with it. What you're looking for when you're running comps. I mean, let's simplify this down to the simplest way. You're looking for solds that are recent. You're looking for close proximity and you're looking for that's it. Don't overthink it. Don't try to comp a 3-story property to a ranch. Don't try to comp a property that's 17 miles away. I'm exaggerating here, but I'm having fun. And don't try to comp a property that was sold 14 years ago. Yeah. Keep it simple. Something very close that has sold recently that is similar in likeness. So likeness means, similar square footage, similar type of home, and similar number of bed and bath. Can you comp a 3 or 4 bedroom house to the opposite, a 3 to a 4? Well, yeah, of course, but you're going to discount those or raise those numbers a little bit. Just don't try to comp a 5 bedroom to a 2 bedroom. The more like that property you can find, the better. And that's the name of it. That's the answer. So in terms of comps, over at PropStream versus Batch Leads in regards to Scotty's question here, both of them are great at this point, by all means. PropStream has the app. I love that. But batch obviously has a lot more tools that I'm using in my business with the list stacking and the skip tracing and the SMS and, you know, all types of other stuff. They actually just added direct mail, which we've been testing and playing with a little bit. So again, you know, both are going to be really, really good solutions. Great question.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And just to piggyback on what you said, when you say, you know, 5-bedroom to a 2-bedroom, that kind of thing, a good rule of thumb, you know, a lot of people will say plus or minus 200 feet. I like to do plus or minus 100 feet. So if the house is 1,500 versus 1,600, you know, 1,500 3-bedroom, 2-bath versus 1,600 2-bedroom, 2-bath, that the 1,600 is still a reasonable comparable, right? For you're trying to get a cost per square foot. So maybe the 1,600 is the only comparable you can find, and it's sold at $150 a square foot. You just time your 1,500 square foot house times $150 a square foot. You're going to have your number, but you don't want to go to an 1,800 square foot house or a 1,200 square foot house and try to use those numbers unless you don't have anything alike. And the other thing to consider too, because when you're in older neighborhoods, we have what we equate to mansions in the hood. Sometimes somebody's added on to a home or was a custom build, and it's a 3,000 square foot house in a neighborhood that has nothing bigger than 1,300 square feet, right? And so a lot of people will try to use the comparables of the 1,200 square foot house to comp that mansion in the hood, that 3,000 square foot house, that 2,600 square foot house, and your cost per square foot at $150 for the 1,200 square foot house is not going to equate on the 2,600 square foot house. You're going to probably be like $125 for that 2,600 square foot house because it's an anomaly in a neighborhood. So I don't want to throw out more information than we need to, but there's things to consider when you're doing comps, especially when you don't have a lot of new wholesalers won't have a like property, and they'll try to use numbers that are unreasonable to get to a number. And just, I want you to start thinking through, you know, logical thought. Is somebody going to want to pay an absorbed amount of money for a house that's bigger than everything else in that neighborhood? You know, and are they likely to pay double? They're not going to do that. So,
right. And when we say like, guys, just don't overcomplicate it though. Just find like properties. Earlier I had mentioned, you know, don't comp a 3-story to a ranch. But also keep in mind that, you know, properties can be very different that look alike. So you may have 2 ranch houses and one has a basement, one doesn't. Those really aren't like properties. So if your subject property is a ranch that's a slab, try to find other ranch slabs, right? So basically, the more like your property, the better. Don says take your square footage from 200 on either side down to 100. I love that. I even typically take my duration, like how long ago it's sold, typically to 6 months, right?
6
if
months.
There's not enough comps, I'll go to a year. But in this market, when you have increasing in prices pretty fast, definitely take that time frame in. And then also in proximity. I don't typically like comping over a quarter mile unless there's 0 comps or I'm out in the country. You know, if I'm in a neighborhood, I want to see properties that are in that neighborhood. Don't cross major interstates, because typically when you do that, the school districts change. And therefore it's no longer like anymore.
Even major cross streets in a city, not just
even major cross streets, interstates, cross streets, boulevards. Yeah. So ideally find properties on the street or within a couple streets or within the neighborhood. And if you have to take your time out a little bit from 6 months to a year, that's fine. If you have to move your square footage a little bit, that's fine. But typically I don't like using, the last thing I typically move is the distance. That's typically the last thing I do. Is I start small. I start at a quarter mile, I start at 6 months, and I start at, maybe 100 to 200 square feet on either side. And then I'll narrow down, assuming I have a lot of comps. If I don't, then I'll start slowly opening those up a little bit. But the more narrow you can be, the better.
Yeah.
Love it.
And just to throw it out there, appraisers like to usually like to see 3 very similar properties that sold at a very similar price, right? That's typically what to see is 3, right? So if you have one outlier and say that was a cash sale by somebody that had to have that property and nothing else in that area comes even close to that comparable, you can't use that number to justify your number on your property. Even the property is the exact property, right? We've had that situation where somebody had to have a property, they paid cash for it, they way overpaid for it, different market, obviously, and that was an outlier. An appraiser's not going to use that. They're going to consider it, but they're not going to use that value. They're going to lump it in averages with 3 or 4 other properties that are like properties and what they sold for, and that's going to bring that number down. So, probably way more information we need to throw out there, but just things to consider when you're looking.
Yeah. I mean, if you're brand new at this, guys, and you're just getting started, don't overthink it. If you're running your comps in batch leads or prop stream, it's gonna give you some presets, and just work off of the presets. And if you have too many comps, then narrow them in a little bit. If you don't have enough, then take them out a little bit. Don't overthink. Again, there's 3 things that I look for typically. It is like properties. It is time, like how long ago, duration. Typically, I like 6 months or less. And it is proximity. And that's really the main thing. Once if you really want to narrow it down, you could probably add 2 or 3 more things to that. But typically from the hip, that's the main things you're looking for. Great question.
Do we have any more?
Looks like Ricardo said he's got his coffee. He just got done trying to scuba dive. I love it, man. I got to go down to Tulum and visit. That sounds awesome.
Very cool. Very cool. So let's see. Matt says each person comps differently. Kind of depends on how you evaluate it. The numbers are the numbers at the end of the day. A lot of people will throw opinion in there and they'll speculate to a certain degree. But at the end of the day, if you're just going off sheer numbers, the comp is going to be the comp.
Agreed.
Yeah. So let's see here. I do have the Nashville cough. I read an appraisal manual from Amazon, and now I feel like I know my shit. That's got to be a hard read.
That's right.
So, all right. Well, Dave, we don't have that many more questions here. It looks like we might be good for the day.
Hey, I love it, man. I love it. Well, guys, thanks for watching Coffee with Closers Live. David Dodge, Don Costa, Gavin, he's already left for the day. Every Wednesday, not weekday, every Wednesday at 9 Pacific, 11 Central, 12 Eastern, Don, Gavin, and I will be going live, and we love talking real estate, all things real estate. So, guys, thanks for watching. Text the number at the bottom here. It's scrolling down here at the bottom. We are building out a website that's got free resources, and you can text that number to get that information. You'll also get weekly tips and tricks and updates from Don, Gavin, and I at that number. So I would highly encourage you guys to text flip to that number so you can get those updates. And I think that's probably it. Don, what you got, man? Is that it?
That's it. I think so. So I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna plug the mastermind. If anybody wants to be part of a mastermind, I mean, we have an amazing community. If you're already doing deals, you got to already kind of have a business in place. But you're watching this and you're already doing deals, you want to be part of a community. Dave's a member of the mastermind. So the Inner Circle Elite, we are investors coming together to help each other out. We got some amazing things going on. Our next meeting is going to be in Nashville. Actually, I just go back to Nashville, but our next meeting is going to be in Nashville, August 5th and 6th. And I'd love to see people apply for that at beinthisroom.com. So just go to beinthisroom.com and apply. And we'll see about getting you in the room. So that's what I got. So
beinthisroom.com, right? I just want to make sure I got that right.
Absolutely.
Boom. So, I just added it into the comments area, guys. Love the group. Don, thank you so much for putting this together. There is some amazing people in this group. And I can't speak, I can't speak highly. I can't speak any more highly about it. Can't get my words here. I need another coffee. Great group.
So, all right, Dave. Always love talking to you, brother. So
likewise. All right, guys, signing off. Until next time. Thanks for watching Coffee with Closers Live. We'll see you till next time.